Alright, look. This is my third freaking time filming this video. The first one, it was blurry. I have not done that in a long time. And when I refilmed it the second time, the quality was not up to my normal standard. And that is just not okay. This is my third freaking time filming this video. I'm going to do everything in my power. I have done everything in my power. I have tripled and quadrupled and quadrupled checked that this is going to be good. So with that, third time's a charm. Let's go. Welcome back to this channel of Chaos of History. Oh my God. When looking into the night sky, there are trillions of stars. Throughout human history, we have tried to understand stars and have created stories, shapes, and names for basically every star in the sky. There have been thousands of constellations created throughout history to tell the stories of gods, myths, and legends. From Galileo onward, astrology and astronomy has captivated science and have put humans in a sort of Pokemon gotta catch 'em all mission to categorize and name them all. One woman was instrumental in classifying thousands of stars. Annie Jump Cannon. Let's get started for the third freaking time. Annie Jump Cannon was born on December 11th, 1863 in Dover, Delaware. Her father was a shipbuilder and a state senator named Wilson Cannon, and her mother was his second wife named Mary Jump. Annie was the eldest of 3 daughters and had 2 younger brothers. Her mom got her into astronomy because in her mother's youth, she studied astronomy at Friends School in Philadelphia. As a child, her mother taught her the constellations, and Annie was fascinated by the spectroscopic effects of candlelight on those really cool old crystal candle holder thingies in their home. You know, those old crystal candles that scream haunted mansion? Her mother also taught her household economics, which I came to find out is different from home economics. I didn't think there was a difference, but apparently there is, and I'm going to tell you what that is. Home economics is defined as the art and science of home management, such as cooking, childcare, cleaning the house, basically stay-at-home mom kind of stuff. Household economics is the financial well-being of the family, such as the ability to cover the basics, housing, utilities, food, and how the family can financially thrive. You share the money, not divide it. The woman's job and the man's job are not separate, but one thing under one household. Annie would even take an old star chart textbook, go onto the roof, and try to match the constellations in the sky to the map inside of the textbook. She went to Wilmington Conference Academy, which then became Wesley College and is now modern-day Delaware State University's downtown campus in Dover, Delaware, from 1877 to 1880, where she studied biology, mathematics, and chemistry. When she graduated, she was only the 11th woman to graduate from the college. After graduating, she went to Wellesley College in Massachusetts in 1880. This was a private women's liberal arts college founded in 1870 and was one of the top academic schools for women in the country. Here, Annie was a promising great student and studied physics and astronomy. She studied physics under American physicist and astronomer Sarah Frances Whiting, who was one of the few women physicists in the U.S. at this time. She graduated in 1884 as valedictorian of her class with an A.B. degree in physics. After she graduated, she returned to Delaware, where for the next decade, things get exciting. What in the hell? This has happened every single time. There's a hair on my face that won't leave me alone. After she returned to Delaware, Annie developed an interest in the new art of photography. Now, when I read that, I thought, new. Then, as I do, because this is me and this is why you all love my channel so much, thank you so much for all these awesome comments, it warms my little heart, I had to do a deep dive. And get this is cool, you'll find it cool, this is really cool. The word photography is Greek and means drawing with light, and photography/camera type talk dates all the way back to ancient China and 5th and 4th century BCE Greece. Everyone from Leonardo da Vinci in 1502 to British inventor Thomas Wedgwood, who is the first known to attempt to capture an image using a camera in 1802, the art and mechanics of photography has captivated humanity. But it wasn't until 1839, 1840 that nature photography was introduced to the world when photos of the White Mountains and Niagara Falls was released. Which, these are old photos, but aren't these cool? The Niagara Falls one fascinates me. And it wasn't until 1875 when dry plates, the things used in those old classic cameras that captured the picture on it, started to be industrially produced, therefore becoming more accessible, especially for amateur photographers like Annie. In 1892, Annie sailed to Spain to take photos with her Blair Box Camerate camera. When she got back, her photos were published in a pamphlet called In the Footsteps of Columbus. This, along with her own writings, was given out as a souvenir at the Chicago World's Columbian Exposition, or Chicago World's Fair, in 1893 that celebrated the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival to the New World. And since this is me, of course, I had to do more of a deep dive because the Chicago World's Fair, I know a little bit about it, but get this. At this fair, the first Ferris wheel, peanut butter, and the brownie was introduced. Like, just take that in. The brownie was new. The brownie was invented. It is also where H.H. Holmes built a murder castle and killed a bunch of people, but that's besides the point. Unfortunately, the years of 1893, 1894 weren't the best. It is thought that after her trip to Spain, or the fact that it's 1890s hygienics, that this is how she came down with scarlet fever. Now, this is unusual because of Annie's age. See, scarlet fever normally affects children from 5 to 15 years old. Annie is 31. Though very odd and very rare, it can happen. There's between a 5 to 15% chance an adult over 30 can contract the disease. But of course, you can prevent contracting the disease if you wash your hands. We learned that over the C virus, and that's why soap was invented, because disease sucks. Luckily, Annie survived it, but it left her nearly deaf, and this, of course, made it hard to socialize. But then in 1894, her mother passed, and this really affected her. In combination with her mother's death and her near deafness, she immersed herself in her work. After her mother passed, she reached out to her former professor at Wellesley, Sarah Whiting, asking if she knew of or had a job opening. Turns out Sarah was in need of an assistant, so she hired Annie as a junior physics teacher at the college. While working with Sarah, Annie took graduate classes and on top of that enrolled as a special student at Radcliffe College in Cambridge to continue her love of studying astronomy. Radcliffe College was an all-women's liberal arts college that is basically right next door to the then all-male Harvard College. This made it easy for the professors at Harvard to teach their classes to the women at Radcliffe because though women can't enter the building, they should be given the same education. We'll teach the class twice, the women just can't come into the same room. While working with Sarah, Annie was inspired by her to learn more about This word is the bane of my existence. While working with Sarah, Annie was inspired by her to learn more about spectroscopy, which is the I think I said that right.
Spectroscopy.
I think I said it correctly. That word has been the bane of my existence for all, now 3 of these films, and I think I said it correctly. Which is the observation of the interaction between light and matter. I am proud of myself. After about 2 years of studying at Radcliffe in 1896, Annie was hired by Edward Pickering, who at the time was the head of the Harvard College Observatory, to be his assistant. Mainly, Annie was hired to be part of his Harvard computers, or as others put it, Pickering's women. These group of women were to go through photos, retain data, and do calculations of a stellar spectra that would later become known as the Henry Draper Catalog, or HD. This catalog was made with the goal of mapping and defining every single star in the sky to a photographic magnitude of 9. Very basically, please correct me if I'm wrong, what that means is it's super zoomed in with a lot of filters to bring out the star's glory. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. The guys, of course, handled operating the telescope, doing the observations, and taking the photos. Meanwhile, the meticulous, painstaking, eye-burning work of looking at the photos, measuring the brightness, color, position, and classifying all of these thousands of stars were done by the women. And of course, since this was the time and women, when I say these women were underpaid, I mean underpaid. They would make as little as 50 cents an hour, working 7 hours a week, 6 days a week, categorizing stars with 1890s telescope technology, with no computers. They are the computers. And I'll put a photo of what these photographs looked like that the women had to find out are stars or not. It just looks like dirt on white paper. That photo ain't no Hubble. I'm just saying. And mind you, 50 cents in 1896 versus today is about 1860. So I guess it's not that bad. I mean, that's starting wage at McDonald's. But Annie didn't let these 50 cents deter her from making major scientific discoveries. Annie freaking dominated this field because of her tidiness, and extreme patience for the very tedious work. She even helped the men in the observatory. She and Henrietta Leavitt, who also worked in the observatory, became friends over their shared experience of becoming deaf. By the time she graduated again from Wellesley College in 1907 with a master's, Annie had classified 1,000 stars. You think that's cool? Get this. By 1913, she was able to work in 1 hour, classify 200 stars. By looking at that. She was able to do this just by looking at their spectral patterns. If she used a magnifying glass that could enhance a star 16 times more than the human eye, she could classify 3 stars a minute. Like, she was insanely accurate. By looking at, in my mind, is dirt on white paper. With all these stars she was finding, in 1901, she published her first catalog of stars. In fact, Annie was so freaking good at this that she developed a whole new system that classified stars based on their temperature. It became known as the Harvard system. How this works is by using the mnemonic device, Oh Be a Fine Girl, Kiss Me, or OBAFGKM. These are known as the stellar classification that is based on the star's temperature, from hottest being O to coolest being M. Another classification for this name is Our Bright Astronomers Frequently Generate Killer Mnemonics. I would assume they go with that more than the other one because the other one is a little bit off. This classification was a compromise Annie came up with to ease a disagreement on how to develop a way to classify stars for the Draper catalog. In 1907, Annie, along with Edward, published the second catalog of variable stars in the Annals of the Astronomical Observatory at Harvard College. An excerpt from the book says, quote, "It was transferred to Miss Cannon in 1901. Since then, she has added 20,000 cards." End quote. In 1911, she was appointed as curator of either observational or astronomical photographs at Harvard's observatory. Remember how fast she is at classifying stars? Get this. On top of the 20,000 Annie found for that book, between 1911 and 1915, Annie classified 5,000 stars a month. Bam. Edward saw how good Annie was at classifying stars. Quote, "Miss Cannon is the only person in the world, man or woman, who can do this work so quickly." End quote. By 1914, Annie was admitted as an honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society in London. In 1921, she became the first woman to receive an honorary doctorate of astronomy and math from Groningen University in the Netherlands. And this school's really pretty. It's really pretty. Ooh, that school's pretty. Annie's classification method of stars was officially adopted by the International Astronomical Union on May 9th, 1922. With a couple very minor alterations, this type of star classification is still used today. If you have ever paid attention or seen in any chemistry, science class or textbook, this picture is what Annie came up with and we still use to this day. The last thing on my mind was how that was invented. Now you know how that was invented. Also in that year, after her star classification method was adopted and would be used by all of humanity for all of eternity, she was taking pretty pics of stars in Peru. Because of course she was. Then in 1925, she was once again the first woman to receive an honorary doctorate, this time of science, and this time from flippin' Oxford. So now she's a double Dr. Cannon. Just freaking saying. And also, I don't know, but I can't help but think. I have heard that the Canon camera is one of the best cameras to use for taking pictures of stars. And Canon, I don't know if they're related or not, but wouldn't that be freaking cool? I don't know. I didn't do that deep dive because I would have lost my brain, but I think that's a really cool theory. Remember the Henry Draper catalog that Harvard was working on and Annie was helping catch all the stars? Between 1918 and 1924, a total of 9 volumes were published in which Annie cataloged 272,150 stellar spectrums. However, when Edward died in 1919, Annie took over and the last 6 volumes were published under her supervision. An extension of the series called the Henry Draper Extension Chats. The first half was published in 1937 and the full final extension was published in 1949, both of which Annie contributed to. In this publication, it extended her catalog to over 400,000 stellar bodies. The numbers are nuts in this one. For her investigations and contributions to astrophysics, she was awarded the Henry Draper Medal in 1931 by the National Academy of Science. That next year, in 1932, she received the Ellen Richards Research Prize for astronomical research. With all these awards and prizes, Annie gave the money to the American Astronomical Society. In doing that, the Annie Jump Cannon Award, which is a prize given to female astronomers in any country, was established. In 1933, Annie represented professional women at another Chicago World's Fair, which this time was called a Century of Progress International Exposition. In 1938, Annie officially became a faculty member at Harvard as the William Cranch Bond Professor of Astronomy and Curator. Get this, again, in 1935, this girl got another doctorate degree, also of science, this time from Oglethorpe University in Georgia. And in 1937, she got a freaking another honorary doctorate of science, this time from Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts. Now she's a quadruple doctor of the stars. Mic drop moment there. I'm just saying, who the heck is a quadruple doctor of stars? In addition to just being a badass in astronomy, Annie was also a badass in women's rights. She was dedicated to the women's suffrage movement and was a member of the National Women's Party. In 1923, the National League of Women Voters voted her as one of the 12 greatest living American women. She was voted for this because, as I've shown, her stupid list of accomplishments and the rocket ship of her career was not only impressive, but so not common for women of her era, especially in the world of astronomy, especially in the world of science. Women rarely went above assistant, and getting the awards she got was even more rare and even more impressive. Annie was one of the few women to ever be elected to the American Philosophical Society and one of the first women to become an officer in the American Astronomical Society. which I guess is a big deal. After 40 decades in astronomy, Annie retired in 1940. Though she retired, she continued to work in the Harvard Observatory and continued to help women get acceptance and respect within the scientific community. And with how epic she is, it helped pave a path for future women astronomers. Annie Jump Cannon died on April 13th, 1941 of heart failure from a month-long illness in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the age of 77. During her lifetime, Annie classified over 400,000 stellar bodies, including 300 variable stars, 5 novae, and 1 spectroscopic binary. This is more than anyone, and for this she got the freaking awesome nickname of Census Taker of the Sky. I love that name. And I couldn't find if she's like world record holder of classifying stars. I would assume so, but I couldn't 100% find out if she was or not. A lunar crater on the moon is named Cannon after her. A dormitory at the University of Delaware named Cannon Hall is in honor of her. In 1994, Annie was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. In 2024, Google did an adorable doodle of her. And in 2019, she's depicted on Delaware's American Innovation $1 coin. The ever-modest woman Annie was about her accomplishments, she once said, quote, "My success, if you would call it that, lies in the fact that I have kept at my work all these years. It is not genius or anything like that. It is merely practice." End quote. At the outbreak of World War II, shortly before her death, Annie said, quote, "In these days of great trouble and unrest, it is good to have something outside our own planet, something fine, distant, and comforting to troubled minds. Let people look to the stars for comfort and find solace as others have." End quote. And luckily, for those that are lucky enough, people still do look to the stars to find solace, comfort, and maybe a UFO. Third time's a charm. There you go. The story of the greatest star classifier in history, Herstory, excuse me. When I found out that she invented how we classify stars, that was not the reason why I looked her up. People need to freaking know this, because it's such a random thing in every classroom, in every textbook, in chemistry class, that you just kind of gloss over. And to find out that a woman invented that, shoot. If you learned something today, and I sure hope you did, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And while you're down there, please leave a friendly comment. And I have to, because we're talking about stars, and my shirt is really cute. What is your zodiac sign? Or please tell me your favorite constellation. Mine is Pegasus and Perseus and Medusa, because I just love Greek mythology. What can I say? I'm a nerd. You all know this by now. I will see you in my next video, but until then, don't be well behaved. You just might make herstory. See you next time, guys.
Coming at you live, real world. Here to light it up, set the world on fire. Gonna break the rules and hearts into.
Oh my flippin' God.